Hello, everyone, and welcome to UGA Sports Rumors versus Facts. I am Blaine Gilmer here with Jed May, and we're here once again to talk UGA football recruiting. And it's not like anything happened this weekend, Jed. You know,
if you're alluding to our New Orleans trip, then no, nothing did happen. What happens in New Orleans stays in New Orleans, if that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, unfortunately for a lot of our people on the vault, there was Justice Haynes going to Alabama over Georgia. We'll talk about that. Also, we'll talk about some decisions that are upcoming and lots of different things that are going on in the world of recruiting. Georgia's all the way up to 10th now. I think they were down at one point 16, 17, something like that in the rankings at one point, and now they're up to 10 with a chance to, Jed, believe it or not, even with the Justice Haynes news, they have an opportunity to potentially be in the top 3 before this next weekend is over with.
Yeah, and we'll get into it later in the show, I'm sure. But Georgia has a very good chance to land 3 4-star rivals, 250 guys in the next 5 or 6 days. So if we do that, we did the math on this earlier, Blaine. Georgia could end up getting up to 3rd, I think. I mean, obviously some of that depends too on if there's other movement for other schools this week, but yeah,
for all the way it worked out was if everybody stayed the same, they'd go up to 3rd.
Yeah. So I mean, with all the hand wringing that's going on right now, and again, some of it too is how does certain positions of need look? It's not necessarily all a raw numbers game necessarily, but with all the hand wringing and stuff, Georgia's class still has a chance to be sitting at 3rd in the rivals team rankings this time next week.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and of course, Georgia on the defensive side of the ball lands Troy Bowles. So you talk about a peak and then a valley, it seems like, in the world of recruiting. Troy Bowles, who is a fantastic inside linebacker prospect and really capped off a tremendous haul in this 2023 class for Glenn Schumann and the Georgia Bulldogs on the interior part of the defense there, the second level of the defense. Now they have C.J. Allen, Raylan Wilson, and Troy Bowles all committed in this class. And you go from that to the very next day of a rather unexpected Alabama commitment. And I do mean unexpected. So it was absolutely a swift turn of events, if you will, Jed.
Yeah, and we've all kind of been laying the cards on the table over the past day or two, just what happened here from my perspective, right? We're sitting in New Orleans on well, I guess let's start with you, Blaine, because you posted on the board yesterday, you had heard from the Haynes family, hey, we might need a commitment video for Georgia coming soon. We'd heard whispers that it could have been this weekend. So we're sitting in New Orleans yesterday, and then I'm in the hotel room. I get a call from Justice Haynes. He says, yeah, I don't know. No one knows yet. I'm going to be committing this afternoon. And I was like, okay, this is matching up with what Blaine's been hearing. And Justice says, yeah, I'm gonna be committing to Alabama. And I was like, what?
That was not matching up with anybody.
That was not matching. And that's the thing is, and I've seen some people note this on the board, but we report what we hear from our trusted sources, right? And what I have heard, what you've heard, what Trent's heard, what Roddy's heard, all of us have heard all along that that this was going to be Georgia. I mean, I checked with some Georgia sources last night, and they were like, yeah, even until today, we still thought it was us. So it's one that, I mean,
to be quite honest, Jed, I think you knew before Georgia knew that they were getting Justice Haynes.
And it was stunning, to be quite honest, because it was so, because like I said, I was so sure. I had this mindset of like, okay, I already started processing my questions, right? I was going to ask Justice in this interview, and he says Alabama, and it's a hard reset, right? And I told Justice I was going to set up an interview in the hallway of the Fairfield Inn in downtown New Orleans, and I was like, Justice, this is going to really shock some people in Georgia circles, and he's like, yeah, people are going to be shocked. So I don't think this is. I mean, everyone runs to the NIL conclusion and all that kind of stuff. I don't think that's what it was. And Blaine, I'm sure you agree, but it's definitely one that Georgia seemed to have had the lead the whole time, pretty much. And then, I mean, what Justice told me was an official visit to Alabama is what really sent them to the front, which was about a month ago, give or take. So But yeah, definitely a stunning one. As far as guys, it was as much of a lock in this class as he could possibly be, we thought.
Well, let me just say this. I'm not saying that it was a what the main factor was or anything like that, but I think even with guys like Arch Manning, anything like that, I think anybody to think that NIL to a certain extent does not play a factor, I just don't think that that can be thought of anymore. NIL is a factor with every high 4-star, borderline 5-star to 5-star recruit in the country to varying extents, but NIL is an impact with an Arch Man. I don't care how much money they have, more money is always there, right? Right, Jed? I mean, that's kind of how it goes. But so I do think that plays a factor to a certain extent. But listen, I think Nick Saban got personally involved in this one and called Justice, 3-4 times over the last couple of weeks. And when you got one of the maybe the greatest coach to ever coach football personally pursuing you, we'll see. We'll see how it all shakes out. I'd heard that a couple of weeks ago, but still didn't think it was enough to get it going. But obviously, coupled the visit with that. But Jed, even in the story that I think I don't remember if it was you or another one of the national guys got it. Justice said he was Nick Saban was shocked when Justice called him.
Yeah, and that's what he said. He told Robert Gillespie for Alabama, and Robert Gillespie was like, "Whoa!" And he told Saban, and Saban's like, "That just made my day because I didn't expect that." And that just shows because that's not something you hear a lot, right? Of coaches, especially coaches of that caliber, basically not that they had admitted defeat necessarily, but they thought justice was going elsewhere. So, and I'm sure I know Georgia thought that too. So, it's like I said earlier, it's shocking. I mean, that might be again, I haven't done this for like a long time or whatever, but that's probably the most stunning plot twist I've seen in terms of you feel like a guy is locked into one school and then at the last second it switches to somewhere else. But Dale McGee, he's been through the battles in this recruiting game for a long time, and he knows, it sucks to miss on your top target, but there's other guys out there like Richard Young and Jeremiah Love and all these other guys that he's going to turn his attention to now.
Yeah. So it's interesting. It was also interesting the manner in which the video, which was very very Georgia heavy in the video with the hobnail boot play and all that kind of stuff. It certainly felt like there was a little bit of a personal element to this. Who knows? We'll see what happens. Maybe the story will come down the line if Justice Haynes goes on to have the career everybody thinks he should have, and maybe it's a 30 for 31 day or something like that comes out down the line. But moving on, or kind of moving backwards, I guess chronologically, you go look at Troy Bowles committing to Georgia. Jed, that is no small thing. That is a huge pickup for the class of 2023. One, because in my mind, it's even a bigger endorsement for Georgia as a program and about what they do for athletes in their program when the head coach of an NFL team says, "Hey, I'm signing off on my son to go there." Now, I know it was Troy's decision, but mom and daddy, even at that point, have a little bit of say and some momentum in things, especially with what we all know to be a good relationship in the Bowles family there. So I think that's big momentum for Georgia.
Absolutely, like you said. I mean, it's who knows what it takes to get into the NFL better than Todd Bowles, who not just is an NFL head coach, but is an NFL head coach with a defensive background emphasis, right? So. And I remember seeing him at Georgia's Pro Day that weekend, which I think coincided with the big weekend in March. Troy was here. I think Pro Day was Thursday, and the 19th was that Saturday. So, like you said, Bowles is a huge commitment. I know Bulldog on the board is going to love having fun with that name for the next couple of years. But
Bulldog is happy on the vault.
He's found the Bowles in many ways. So, but I mean, when you look at him and C.J. Allen and Raylan Wilson. I mean, we look at last year, right, with what Georgia did in the defensive back class with all the guys they signed. you can make the argument this inside linebacker class obviously doesn't have as many guys in terms of quantity, but is just as elite in terms of top end guys that are going to make an impact throughout their careers in Athens.
And Jed, you're a national guy. Are you going to stand on the table for C.J. Allen to go up the board as a prospect? Not just because he's committed to Georgia, but I just think he's one guy that may be fairly underrated right now.
As long as I'm in a room with tall ceilings and I won't hit my head, I will stand on a table for C.J. Allen because he looks. I mean, I haven't seen him play a game in person. That might be.
That's the ticket. You gotta get down there in person.
Stops, yeah, to see him, I guess, live action. But like his film, he physically, he looks he's built like a tank. I mean, he looks like he could be, a big bruising running back if he really wanted to. So, but that's very. I don't know off the top. I don't believe C.J. Allen is in the 250 right now. But say he ends up getting there by the end of the cycle. 3 rivals 250 line. I mean, Raylan Wilson and Troy Bowles are in the Rivals 100.
Yeah,
I believe.
Absolutely.
So you got 2 Rivals 100 guys already, with another 250 guy potentially to be added. So that's what more can you say about Glenn Schumann other than he just keeps it going every year?
Absolutely. Glenn Schumann has really earned a reputation of being one of the best recruiters, in the country. I mean, him, Todd Hartley, they've really done a great job. Even with the Justice Haynes thing that nobody saw, and hey, technically it's not over till December, and he signs on the dotted line. Del McGee's still an elite recruiter. I mean, he's done some great things there at Georgia with running backs and also other positions. And we're going to have a conversation with that as well later on in terms of coaches helping out with other positions and things of that nature. But Jed, there's also some decisions coming up. I know, Jamal Jarrett tomorrow at 6:30. You're going to be in attendance right up there in North Carolina to see if Jamal Jarrett picks Georgia, North Carolina, or Auburn.
Yeah, Coach Donnan decided, you know what, this guy doesn't really do anything. He's going to send me up there to get some more barbecue for him. And while I'm there, I'm going to take in Jamal Jarrett's commitment tomorrow night, 6:30 at the Grimsley High School football stadium, which is beautiful, by the way. I mean, really, really beautiful stadium there. But yeah, we all expect that to be Georgia. It's really kind of been Georgia, North Carolina, I think, for a while now. Auburn got in there with a strong official visit, but North Carolina's got the home state thing. They've got Travis Shaw from the same high school, one class ahead, but ultimately the Jordan Davis comparisons, the relationship with Trey, the early belief in Trey Scott, dating back to last year even, ultimately I think is going to have Georgia come out on top and land the number, I believe he's the number 2 defensive tackle in the country.
Number 50 overall prospect. So that would, if that does go Georgia's way, that would move Georgia, I think, up to number 8 in the country right there. And then 2 more decisions to be made. Kelton Smith, is announcing later this week, and then also Jonell Aguero is announcing on the 23rd. And you do that math, like we said, you add in the bonuses for the spots for potentially Jarrett and potentially Aguero in the Rivals 250. And if everything were to stay the same, add in Kelton Smith's points that Georgia leads for, that puts Georgia at number 3, sitting up there, I think, behind, is it Notre Dame and Ohio State up there, that 1 and 2 right now. So, Georgia could really shoot up in a big way this week after what is no doubt, this is the Justice Haynes thing. That is nothing more than a straight up miss. I mean, that is a miss. Georgia absolutely made it clear the entire time. He was their number 1 priority, also a legacy. And that's a tough pill to swallow there. I'm not saying they're going to give up on, recruiting Justice either. I'm sure they'll keep, trying until the last second before the pen touches the paper. But that is a miss. But what better way to follow up a miss than maybe, land 3 guys in the class of 2023 and vault up the recruiting board, when it comes to following it up the next week. So it could be a big week for Georgia.
Yeah, and again, it's one of those things where the Georgia they've done this a lot. Sometimes you miss on Arch Manning. I mean, that was God, seems so long ago we were still talking about Arch Manning, but they Georgia follows that up with commitments from Landon Thomas and Nye Carr right back to back in the next within a couple weeks of that. So this conversation we're having here could have a very different tune come next Monday. Today is Monday.
Would it?
Um,
I just thought of
yeah,
something. If we were comparing Kirby Smart to a boxer, now that he has a title, he has a championship. That's what the boxers look for. They UFC, all that kind of stuff. They try to put the belt over their shoulder. Would it be fair to equate Kirby Smart to a Floyd Mayweather? He's more of a defensive fighter. He's not going to go out there and be the most aggressive in the world, but man, he can hurt you on a counter punch. So
mhm.
it seems like Kirby and company are really good with the counter punching. Something bad happens, they come right back with a flurry of commitments right after that.
Yeah, and the thing is too is we've still got these guys that could pop at any time. And we had no idea Nykar and Landon Thomas were going to pop when they did until they kind of gave indications the day of. So Connor Liu is a guy that we're sounding like we here might decide in early August. Not to say Jordan necessarily leads there. They're obviously a strong contender. I think he's still kind of sorting out where he's going to end up going, but guys that could pop at any time. A lot of these guys are going to try to get things done before the high school season starts, and that's in probably 3-4 weeks at this point on July 18th. So it's going to be interesting. We've still got 2 weeks in July, and then a couple weeks for the high school season. So this next month is going to be really, really interesting.
Yeah, so we've touched on kind of a lot of the main topics here early on the show, but now it's time to get to our vault questions here, Jed, and we'll also be answering questions on YouTube. We see a lot of the comments here. Actually, before we do that, let's put up some of the comments here before we read that question. I think I saw some guys checking in. Oh yeah, we got Freddie F. He said. WCW from West Palm Beach. Yeah. So Fred F is in there, continuing with our pro wrestling theme in there. So, appreciate all of you guys tuning in. See the Green Soldier in here. Brett Weimer on the Justice Haynes deal said, Curse of the Last Visit. Tampa Dog. So I presume he's from Tampa, Jed. NIL matters. And Foster Moss he says he didn't want to come play every 3 plays. So Foster is, adamant about, rotating players less. But we got a lot of people in here watching. We really appreciate that. Hit subscribe, guys. A lot of people that watch the show each week are still not subscribed. It is free. So hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications so you know when we go live. We really, really appreciate it. So, all right, Jed, what's our first set of questions, if you will, from G Dogs 00.
G Dogs 00. Is Georgia football over? Obviously a joke. We'll be the judge of that. And then any new intel on Richard Young, and has anything changed on Janelle Aguero? Do we seem to have better in-state traction in the loaded 24 class aside from the 2 studs already committed?
I think it's, let's start backwards. In the 24 class. I think Georgia, as everybody did, you could look at it and know that the 2023 class in the state of Georgia is not as still talented, but not as talented as some other classes before have been. And certainly 2024 is one of the more talented classes that we have seen in a long time out of the state of Georgia. There's a lot of guys in the state of Georgia. And I think that, that is going to be a big, it's already a big focus. You look at Nykar, you look at Landon Thomas. So I think Georgia does have better traction, but I think Georgia just, much like somebody with a good offense, like I heard Lane Kiffin say in SEC Media Days today, he said, hey, we adjust our offense to our players. Well, I would imagine that Georgia adjust how they recruit the state of Georgia based off, based off the talent that they assess in the state of Georgia.
Yeah, and you got 2 top 40 players in the state already on board, right? And you've got KJ Bolden, you've got Zion Radians, you've got Micah Welch, a running back from Ball, and you've got, I believe you got Cam Davis in Albany, Florida State commit. You've got Jarrett Gibson, who I want to say is originally from Georgia. Correct me if I'm wrong, Blaine. I think so. You've
Who's
got
that? Cam Davis? Yeah, I think he spent some time in Georgia.
so I mean, gosh, there's so many of these guys. Like I said, Landon Thomas, number one tight end, already committed. Daniel Calhoun is one of the
Yeah,
top.
there's lots of linemen. There's a lineman over at Meadow Creek. It's Chance Thomas, I think is his Thompson's
Yeah.
his name. So there's
Brown.
lots of linemen in the state of Georgia in 2024. And it's going to be interesting. Jaden Davis is actually a quarterback that was from the state of Georgia, grew up a Georgia fan, now he lives in Charlotte, North Carolina, goes to school at Providence Christian, I think, up there in Charlotte. But, there's lots of guys that have Georgia ties in the class of 2024. Sammy Brown, I know you mentioned Sammy, but I mean, that could end up being one of the bigger ones, Jed, just because of you look at what Georgia's done at inside linebacker. I mean, come on now.
And there's even guys like Miles Graham out of Woodward Academy is a really good looking kid. We had him listed at safety on Rivals until these last rankings updates. And then I went to my room with the tall ceilings and I stood on my table and said, this kid needs to be an inside linebacker, excuse me, because that's what he plays at Woodward Academy. I mean, he's a really good looking kid. So Florida legacy. So that could come into play there. But there's just so many guys and I think there's guys this fall, right, that could explode onto the scene that we don't even know about yet. So there's just so much talent at every position in the state of Georgia in 2024. I mean, it's going to be crazy to see how it goes with Georgia. And the thing is, Georgia is such a national I don't know the locking down of the state is as crucial as it once was. But when you got a class like this, like someone posted on the board earlier that there's 7 of the top 10 guys in the state this year that are currently heading elsewhere. Georgia didn't heavily pursue necessarily all of those guys, right?
Yeah.
But
to varying degrees, for sure.
To varying degrees, yeah. But next year, when you've got, I mean, the top 10 guys in the state of Georgia are probably all going to be in the top 50 in the country, then that's one of those ones where if the same pattern repeats itself next year, then that's going to be more of a.
Well, here's your rankings in the state of Georgia based on how they're ranked now by Rivals. Daniel Calhoun, Edric Houston at Buford. You have Sammy Brown, Miles Graham, Heaven Brown Schuler out of Pace Academy that's been to Georgia several times. KJ Bolden, Cameron Davis, Zion Reagans, Nikar, Tyshawn White, who's at Buford, Landon Thomas, Omar White out of Leesburg, Lee County. Big defensive tackle that, Georgia will look to be adding another anchor there. They always look to add that big guy in the middle, of course. CJ Hurd, Justin Green, you go all the way down to Jalewis Solomon, a wide receiver out of Schley County that can really play. So there's a lot of talent. Walt Claire Flynn is on there. Zion Ferguson from Grayson's on there. All the way down to Dwight Phillips out of Pebblebrook, and going down to, like I said, Champ Thompson out of Meadow Creek, and Kylan Fox, down there. There's lots of guys that Georgia is involved with, and that's just the top 25 recruits in the state. King Joseph Edwards, I skipped. He's on there. So it is a big class in the class of 2024 inside the state of Georgia, and one that Georgia will certainly look to capitalize on. Now let's get to Aguero and Young. As of right now, I feel that Georgia is in really good shape with Jonell Aguirre. They've kind of been the most consistent team in that recruitment. I know that there's been some coaching changes, but Kirby Smart and company have made it quite clear how much they believe in and think of Jonell Aguirre. Fran Brown really gotten involved there. Muschamp is doing a lot of work there, and it's kind of coming down to Georgia and Miami, it seems, Jed, and everybody's first thought is, is Miami gonna dump a lot of NIL money or something like that, and right at the end. So we'll see what comes to play or comes more in play here. Is it Georgia's kind of vision and role of developing guys, the Lewis Singh connection, all that he has to Georgia, or is it Miami and kind of their newfound momentum in recruitment?
Momentum. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, we've been hearing good things on Janelle Aguero, dating back even to last summer, last fall. Which I was thinking this today. You guys might not be inclined to believe us because we said the same things about Justice Haynes leading up to his commitment, but it happens in recruiting, right? We were hearing really good things on Janelle Aguero. Georgia sits in a good spot with him, and when you've got him and you've got Caleb Downs as sort of the two safety targets, Georgia needs to get one of those guys.
And you figure now Caleb Downs is going to Alabama. I mean,
that Justice Haynes' decision certainly does not hurt there. Interesting nugget on Justice Haynes and Caleb Downs. No one cares anymore because they're not coming to Georgia. But Justice told me that originally his mom and Caleb Downs' mom are good friends, and they were both going to name their sons Caleb. And then Justice's mom obviously had a change of heart. But yeah, that certainly doesn't hurt Alabama and the Caleb Downs recruitment. And you look at Richard Young, the second or the third part of this question. It's going to be interesting to see. We've heard, and our friends at the Alabama site have heard as well that Alabama sits in a really good place for Richard Young.
It seems like it's been that way for a while too, Jed.
Exactly. We had heard that before Haynes. So now the question is, does that change things? Obviously, Georgia has been going strong for Richard Young. So is Oregon. Those are two players, as is Alabama, Georgia, Alabama, and Oregon. So it's gonna see. I think if the longer it goes, I think it might start to swing back towards he will go somewhere other than Alabama. But that's definitely one to be monitored over the next week or two, because it seems like we had heard rumors that it might be coming soon, and now it's kind of all in a wait and see pattern. No one really knows. So I definitely think Georgia's not dead there yet, but we'll just see how the Justice thing affects Richard Young.
Absolutely. And obviously Georgia football is not over. They are defending national champions, have a chance to shoot up to the top three here for too long.
Have a lot more time for golf in the fall if they were over. I'd say that.
Looking at Ronald Acuna right here, hitting 18 home runs in the first round of the home run derby. That's pretty impressive right there. But Jed, here we go. What's our next question here from What's Up, Dog?
What's Up, Dog? Also, first, speaking of in-state talent, we got Darius Smith Sr. in the house. Mr. Smith, good to see you. From What's Up, Dog? Can Todd Hartley recruit all offensive positions for the Dogs? He might solve the problem in positions we are underachieving on. Would Kirby allow it?
Okay, so now, yes, Todd Hartley is an unbelievable recruiter, but everybody also has to understand everybody has a kind of it's different when you're recruiting literally one, maybe two guys for an entire cycle, okay, instead of multiple guys, 4, 5, 6 guys that you have to land, and you can hone in on one. But here's the thing that recruits, people that are familiar with the recruitment of those recruits, family members, all this kind of stuff. Here's what they say about Todd Hartley, that literally you can feel just how genuine he is in the recruitment, and that he is genuinely one of there's not a lot of coaches out there, I think, that would be categorized as just banner human beings, okay, out there, Jed. But Todd Hartley is a guy that everybody genuinely seems to like, and that their families are, convinced that he cares about their young men, their athletes, all that kind of stuff. So it is it's a real genuine thing with Todd Hartley. Now, yeah, I'm sure Todd Hartley's helping out with other positions. We know that last year when you went and saw Jaheim Singletary, Todd Hartley was big there with Jaheim Singletary. So go ahead, Jed.
And I was just going to say, Todd Hartley helped out with Nye Carr as well. So, and we've talked about, you flip that. Dell McGee has been recruiting TJ Shanahan. These guys cross positions depending on areas and just maybe the not luck of the draw, just how things happen sometimes. But you can't, I'm sure this question might be a little tongue in cheek a little bit, but that's just, I mean, guys help the whole. It's at some point it's a team effort recruiting these guys, but if I mean, so many of these guys make decisions based on the position coach at their position, right? And Todd Harley can be a great guy and he can do this all he wants, but at a certain point, if a recruit hasn't built a strong relationship with the DB's coach or the running back, not to just giving examples, right? Then there's only so much he can do. But definitely, he's a great asset to have on staff because he's helped with so many guys outside of the tight end position, which is obviously gone pretty well in itself.
Absolutely, absolutely. But like you said, they do help each other. They also have, if they have ties to a certain geographical area, right, in their background, stuff like that, they're going to utilize that. So, yeah, of course, Kirby's going to allow guys to help each other do the strengths, utilize their strengths and all the things that come along with that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. MCS Dog 1 says, if Georgia does in fact decide on a quarterback in this class, who might they take a look at? Jed, I'm gonna let you have that one because I don't think it's anybody.
Good. And I was worried we might not get a quarterback question tonight with all the Justice talk. I don't know. I mean, I don't see it's one of we've talked about, right? Will Georgia end up having a quarterback from somewhere? Like there's a decent chance of that, but not necessarily from high school. I think if you're looking at high school quarterbacks, because there's so many of these guys, right? I mean, that's part of the reason that Arch Manning's recruitment was so unique is that he's the top quarterback in the country, and yet he did decide till I forget early July or late June, whatever. And by that point, most of the top quarterbacks are off the board. So I hate to say it, you guys are going to kill me for this. You look at Casey Wiseman as a guy that Georgia has had interest in the past, hasn't offered or anything, haven't gone super hard after him. He's a guy that could blow up with a strong senior season. He has been on the coaches' radar. I mean, Monken told him last summer he liked his game, just he needs to get bigger and grow and all that kind of stuff. So unless it's him, unless Georgia likes what they see from him and decide to pull the trigger on an offer, I really don't see anybody in this high school class. Which again, I mean, same can be said for other guys besides Casey Wiseman, right? Some guy in state somewhere could have a huge senior season, and Georgia decides to pursue him. But right now, as it stands right now, I think it's Casey Wiseman, maybe if Georgia decides to offer. But outside of that, I think they probably end up looking in the portal for somebody.
Yeah, I think too that you could see Georgia do the same at running back. I really don't know that Georgia's just going to take a running back here just to take a running back if it doesn't get Richard Young or Justice Haynes. I know that Jamar Wilcox is a guy that they could take a look at depending on if he has a real strong senior year or not, similar to a Wiseman. But I really think that the transfer portal could be in play for Georgia and running back. Also, think about this. Here's the thing that could happen. Does this, with Justice Haynes and potentially Richard Young going somewhere else, does this maybe not force the hand, but does this not encourage that, hey, if Branson Robinson is showing that he's ready to get some carries, and is ready to really play, let the big dog eat, so to speak, a little bit more his freshman year, because they're going to depend on him and there won't be quite as much, depth depending on what they do and don't bring in behind him. It just could change that dynamic with how much playing time Branson Robinson gets in his freshman year, in my opinion.
Yeah, and on the flip side of that, it's obviously a different pitch with what these guys will be facing, but you wonder if they turn more attention to convincing Kenny McIntosh and Kendall Milton to come back. I see the animals outside the window agree. When you look at what Chubb and Michelle did after 16, those guys could have easily gone pro and come back. So you wonder, do Smart and company really decide to pitch those guys on, hey, come back, be that featured such as it is in the Georgia offense, right? Be that guy for your senior season and really leave a lasting legacy in Athens. So that's something too. But yeah, definitely transfer portal is in play at quarterback and at running back, I think. Yeah,
no doubt. I definitely think that's going to be the case. Fred says we want kids who want to be at Georgia. No disrespect to the Haynes family. Absolutely. I mean, if Justice Haynes wanted to come to Georgia or wanted to commit to Georgia yesterday, Justice Haynes has every opportunity in the world to do so. And that's the thing that I posted on the vault, kind of a lesson learned. Some of these guys that you see that have every single opportunity, Jed, to commit like that are clear number one priority guys. And, the longer it goes without it, it seems like, hey, be prepared for something that you weren't expecting coming about because, it just seems like some guys go ahead and pull the trigger early and be that. Now I know there's cases, Jed, of guys holding out till signing day, stuff like that. But there's a difference with some guys, especially a legacy and things of that nature. There was just a lot of factors there where you would think if that one was going to get done, it would have already been done.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of these when people say these kids have had every chance to commit and these things, I think well, I mean, obviously that's true. Justice Haynes could have committed 6 months ago and Georgia would have accepted it, right? But I think nowadays the thought process for most of these kids is I'm going to take my visits, which they have every right to do, right? You can't fault them for that. But that the reason they take those visits and what can happen is you get your eyes opened up to different things, you get to see different aspects of these programs, all kind of stuff. So things you think are pretty much a lock for a program, whether it's Georgia, whether it's Alabama, Texas, whatever, that always leaves that little window for another school to jump in, and that's what Alabama did in this Haynes recruitment. Credit to Nick Saban and company for taking advantage and seizing the opportunity. But that's just how it is, I think, in modern college football now. Guys are going to take their visits, see what everything has to offer, and then things will fall where they fall after that.
Yeah, for sure. And I just do want to say, people in our YouTube chat, there is a tremendous conversation going on right now with Darius Senior and a lot of these guys in here talking about Darius Smith and what he basically that he can do everything on the football field, and he's a big, and I mean long, talented guy. So that is for sure. It'll be interesting to see. So Darius Senior, Tristram West, all those guys, we appreciate you watching here on the YouTube channel. Again, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button, throw us a like in there. We really appreciate it. Rhett Womack is in. He's had some comments on here, so we appreciate everybody tuning in over in the chat over there. Now, Medical Dog says, do you think NIL promises will lead to more late flips and cycles? Well, Jed, I think that kind of depends on, do people follow through with said promises? Because here's the thing with some of this. We all know that there are legal NIL things and there are things that maybe aren't as legal, and there's things that are promised and things like that at various schools. And if someone is promising that and there is no legal binding contract, that would make me very nervous. That would make me very nervous because, you can take somebody's word to a certain point, but if you're staking your entire, future, where you're going to go, where you're going to play, I guess people are just taking solace in that the transfer portal is, pretty much open and you can just get out of that situation. But it seems like a lot of, to kind of just put in there with no documents or contracts in place. He goes on to ask, are contracts being signed? There are contracts being signed once people get into college. I know that it varies on state, Jed, and the rules. If guys can take NIL money while they're in high school, can they not? Things of that nature. It varies. So I just think that there will be more flips, but I think it's going to be less about flips and more about the transfer portal going forward and guys being like, oh, this isn't what I thought when I was being recruited here. They said I was going to get X, Y, and Z, and then I didn't.
Yeah, and there's rumors or not rumors, but when you saw Jordan Addison leave for USC and you hear all the things about the millions of dollars he's getting with NIL and all this kind of stuff. So it's just I mean, Greg Sankey said this in Media Days today. He's like, we can't go on when you've got, you probably got 9 or 10 states, whatever, in the SEC, and you've got that many sets of different state laws, right? I mean, that's not a tenable model for success. He was saying today, and I think I agree with him, they need either a uniform, whether it's federal, NCAA, somebody, there's got to be a uniform standard or at least similar state laws across the SEC country. Now, I don't know how you manage that when it's obviously independent state legislatures and all that kind of stuff. Putting my AP government knowledge from ninth grade to youth there. But it's I don't know. It's such a, and we say this every week. I feel like it's just such a nobody knows. There's a word I probably can't say on the air to describe what it is, but it's, I mean, no one knows. It's so up in the air. People are still figuring it out. I mean, we talked about this last summer, right? Of what's NIL going to do? We still don't know. It's still being sorted out. Eventually, there will be legislation. It's just until then, it's kind of you do what you do, you do what you can do, and this was a really terrible answer, but I just don't know. I honestly don't know. I mean,
Well,
it's on the states, the schools, the
I
kids. It's all different.
I thought that Lane Kiffin's, like you mentioned before, I thought Lane Kiffin's statement on NIL when he talked about it at Media Days today, he talked about, hey, they asked, should coaches be involved? Well, right now, technically, Jed, that coaches can't facilitate by the letter. They can't facilitate these rules. So he goes, what's going to happen? Are the boosters going to decide who plays because they pay them? I saw a YouTube video the other day of Nick Saban speaking at an AFCA coaches clinic back right when he came to Alabama from Miami, and he was talking about how the owner of the Miami Dolphins would call him up and say, hey, I'm going to pay this guy X amount on this signing bonus, and Nick Saban would say, I don't think he's worth that, because he said, I don't think any of them are worth that. He said, but if you pay him that, he will be the starting, whatever position. And that's kind of how it goes. So to Lane Kiffin's point, are the boosters going to be the ones, hey, we paid this guy, we got him on a $7 million contract over the next 4 years. He needs to be on the field as a freshman and get it going. Is that going to be the case? Because if that becomes the case, then I think you're going to see even more chaos than what you have. So, yes, there's definitely something to embracing NIL and really kind of going after things. And then there's also, there's also the deal of, okay, find the balance of, are the coaches still in control? Jed, you still with us, man? Can you hear us? Because you've kind of froze up there. I'm going to remove you and bring you back in. So I think we might have lost Jed for a minute. I'm going to kick him out of the studio, and he can come back in here in just a minute. But so, guys, those are our questions on YouTube, or on the vault there. If you have any questions on YouTube, anything you want answered, we'll go ahead and do those. Fred F says, how sustainable is NIL? Look at the Aggies. They're not even top 20 in recruiting this year. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, eventually, there's a quote that I heard somebody say one time about socialism. Eventually you run out of other people's money, right? And that's what's going to happen with NIL a little bit here. So it's interesting to see, what's going to happen with some of these big recruits. Now, I know Texas and Texas and Texas A&M are never going to really run out of money, but are you going to be able to spend the same amount on guys year over year? That'll be interesting. So, Jed, we just had Fred F asked, how sustainable is NIL? And I think, to your point, like you said about Lane Kiffin, and Lane Kiffin said, I think there's going to have to end up being legislation, a cap, something like that put in place. Now, I know people will always find ways to get around it. That's how it is, in the world of college football. But I think that is, where it's headed, where people, there's going to have to be some uniformity for it to be sustainable.
There has to be. I mean, and I think it's got to come from either the NCAA or whatever governing body ends up replacing the NCAA, if that's what happens, or from the federal level, because I just don't see how all these different states, because you think, okay, say we end up with this 2 super conference model, just for example, that's what, 22 different states, if you count the SEC, the Big Ten, and some of these other schools, that you're all going to have those states come up with similar state laws. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. So it's got to be from the federal level or from a collegiate athletics governing body, and it just has to happen. I mean, I don't see any other way around it with what it has become with recruiting inducements and all these things we hear about playing. It's gotta, there's an answer out there somewhere in terms of getting it, I don't want to say under control, but regulated to the point where it's not just a bottomless pit. People are throwing money down.
Yeah, for sure. So, that's kind of all the questions we had on the vault, and I think YouTube for right now that everybody's put in. If you have any more on YouTube, you got to just a little while here before we sign off. So if you got one on YouTube, you can go ahead and throw it in. But we appreciate everybody tuning in. Tomorrow at 6:30 at night, you've got Jamal Jarrett's decision. Jed will be up there covering that. It seems like it's a Georgia, North Carolina deal right there with Georgia tentatively, being in the lead. So we'll see if that holds true through the announcement tomorrow night. And then also you have Kelton Smith, I believe, on the 21st, offensive lineman out of Columbus, 22nd. Hey, a lot of dates here, Kelton Smith.
When you're a national guy and they pay you the money, like this is what you got. This is what
Jed gets paid the big bucks for. So Kelton Smith on the 22nd, and then you have Janelle Aguirre on the 23rd. So could be a big week for Georgia. Georgia could, if everything holds steady in the teams ahead of them over the next few days, Georgia could find themselves by the time the sun sets on the 23rd at number 3 in the recruiting rankings. So get into the vault. Make sure you're a member of UGASports.com. Like I said, subscribe, turn on notifications. We really appreciate it. We got two questions. We'll hit rapid fire right here. I think it says Connor Lou, Auburn. I don't know. I think it's a Georgia Auburn deal right now. That's still a little bit away in Jed, but I think you got to kind of see what happens in the offensive line recruiting room before August gets here.
Yeah, and I think that's one where Kelton Smith's decision could influence that. How things are shaping up with Bo Hewley at that point could influence that. How the staff feels about keeping him in the class, although Connor Lou is probably going to end up at inside anyway. So yeah, I mean, it's I think the guy that we all kind of want to know about is Monroe Freeling, because he's a guy that he doesn't do a ton of interviews and all this kind of stuff, but he's a guy that I know Ben has been pretty adamant that Georgia sits in a good spot for him. So that's a guy that could swing this class in 2 different directions. I know Georgia and Notre Dame are kind of the top 2 there.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the last one we'll take here. How do y'all like Georgia's chances with 5-star wide receiver? I assume he's talking about Hakeem Williams there. So with Hakeem Williams, I think it's a Georgia, Texas A&M, and Pittsburgh battle. All 3 are in it. Yes, Pittsburgh. Hey, who knows? They got bit by the NIL deal with Jordan Atkinson. Like we said earlier, maybe they pony up and try to get a nice NIL package and maybe bring Hakeem Williams to Pitt. But I think Georgia and Texas A&M are the 2 most likely spots. So we'll see from there. But guys, for Jed May, I am Blaine Gilmer, and we will catch all of you next Monday night for another episode of Rumors versus Facts. Make sure to tune in to Roddy, Coach Donnan, and Dane tomorrow, and subscribe, turn on notifications, give us some comments. We appreciate all that, and we'll catch you guys next time on UGA Sports Rumors versus Facts.